Alright, in this tutorial I will be discussing fiber. Now I do not mean Google Fiber, nor do I mean natural or synthetic fiber. I am talking about Ruby's fiber. It is, on its own, something helpful for you to use. Alright, so a brief explanation. Fiber in Ruby is a easy to manage way to create a new thread, pause it, and return values at any point, also as well as resuming. Raise your hand if you are confused. Alright, if you got your hand raised, leave me a comment, tell me you're confused. Do it. Alright then, so let me work some magic of mine here and try to explain what all of that meant. Well, first we have to find out what the CPU does and how threads are created. Alright, so imagine your CPU is a factory. Yes, imagine your CPU is a factory. And inside of your factory you have your workers, which is your cores inside of your computer. So you might have a dual core, a quad core, or an 8 core, or any other type. I think there's only any types. Yeah. So they are your workers, and the more of them you have, the more workers you have, right? Your workers there. Haha. Okay. Then you have your boss of the factory, which is your operating system. In my case, I'm using Windows, so Windows would be my operating system, and it looks exactly like that. Freaking Windows fool. Okay. Now, you have threads. Threads are what your workers, or your cores, have to work on while they're active. In this case, conveyor belt. You know, that's what I just said. So a thread is like a conveyor belt. It can be empty or it can be full. The job of your boss, the operating system, is to tell your workers to work on each thread as they become more prioritized. Okay, so right now, chances are good your computer is running 2 threads. One for watching this video, and another one, or probably even more, for every other application you have open on your computer currently. Because even if it's not active, it might need to do something behind the scenes. For example, iTunes, Windows Media Player, Media Monkey, your music playing programs. They need to always check to see if the sound that they're playing has finished. Because if it has, you go to the next song, or shuffle, or whatever it does after a song finishes. They need to check, so they create a thread on the PC which gets checked even if you're not in that program. Okay? So, your computer has a lot of threads. It has like... Seriously, you never have to worry about threads. If you do, you're doing something wrong. Okay? So, what can happen is, if you have a quad core, and you only have 2 threads running currently, the computer doesn't have to, only 2 workers have to, you know, worry about their stuff. The other 2 workers are pretty much just lazing about right now. Your cores are very hard workers. They will work as hard as they possibly can to get the job done as quick as possible. Okay? So, there you go. Happy smile, all that stuff. So here's the thing. If you have too many threads open, and not enough workers to satiate them, for example, World of Warcraft has around about 200 threads open at any time. Yeah. Your computer cannot manage 200 threads at once like that. So what it does is, it prioritizes threads over the amount of workers it has. Okay, so picture it like this. I have 2 threads running and I only have a single core on my computer. Okay, it will spend maybe 1/3 of a cycle on one thread and 2/3 of the other on the other thread. Okay, so since it has 2 threads and it can only do and only has 1 worker, it tries and gets as much done as it possibly can. And the same works for if you have a quad core or a dual core or whatever. If there are too many threads open and it can't manage all of it, it will try and work in prioritizing order. It will try and get as much done as it can. Okay? So, this is what fiber does. it creates a new thread on your CPU, which your computer operating system, in my case Windows, probably yours as well, will tell the workers to go look tell the workers to go into that thread and try and assemble everything, okay, and do it as quick as possible. Now, in Ruby, Fiber has a special thing that it can do. You can pause that thread at any time. What that means is, say this worker here is working on this car, okay? You can tell him at any time to stop working on it, okay? And whatever he was doing last, he can tell you, okay? So, going back to code for a bit, imagine he's working on a string. Imagine he's going through text. Okay, maybe he's right now at element number 10 in a string of 16 characters. Okay, now you can say to him, what were you on before I stopped you? And he'll say, oh, I was on letter A. Yeah? Okay. Okay. Okay, I tried to explain that as well as I could, but if you're still confused, yeah, maybe the code would be a bit better. Alright, so let's start this. Class. I'm just going to do Fiber thing here, and I'm going to do initialize. We should know what initialize does by now. It gets called every single time you create a new instance of a class. So I'm going to go at text is equal to, this is an example of text displayed inside of a Fiber. Aha. Alright, so that's def initialize. Next one is def begin Fiber. Begin Fiber. And I'll leave that for now. Def resume Fiber. Fiber. And then def, this one would be def print. Print text. Oh, just get text. Get text. End. Alright. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do add variable here, so I'm going to make a quick Fiber is equal to nil. It's going to equal to nil regardless, but I'm going to do it there anyway. Fiber's begin Fiber, so Fiber is equal to Fiber dot new, and inside of here you do squiggly brackets. Okay. Now, inside of the squiggly brackets, you want to have this is where the block of code it's going to execute is going to go. So in this case, I'm going to pass in get text. Okay, so get text. Cool. And what it's going to do is, when I enter this, it's going to begin executing this code inside this method on a new thread outside of the one that's running this currently. Okay. Alright, now since we've gone Fiber is equal to Fiber.new, we can actually go while at Fiber is not equal to nil. So while Fiber is not nil. Okay, resume Fiber. Okay, and I imagine this is going to get confusing really quickly. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go Fiber, get text. I'm going to do for c in at text. I'm going to do Fiber dot yield c. Okay. All right. So I want to recap on this quickly here. I'm going to create the class, initialize. It's going to go at text is equal. This is an example of text playing inside of a Fiber. Okay, that's all that's going to do on initialization. Then I'm going to go begin Fiber. Okay, and what that's going to do is that's going to create a new Fiber. Okay, which runs the get text block of code. Okay, so in the next one here, in this block here, what this does is it says while Fiber is not equal to nil, which I should do here by the way. While Fiber is not nil, resume the Fiber. Okay, I want to try and explain this very clearly. These are two separate threads, okay? Thread 1 here, the one that does initialization and begin fiber and all this stuff here, this one is saying, while the second thread is not equal to nil, resume it, okay? And what fiber.yield here does is, it stops the second thread from running. It actually stops it. The worker has been told to stop working on his car, okay? And that is what C here does as well. That is returning that variable that it was currently working on back into the fiber root section, okay? So, while fiber not equal to nil, resume fiber. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to have print at fiber dot resume. Alright, so what will happen now is, when I say at fiber dot resume, what will happen is it will return the value that it stored previously. So in this case I have 4C in text, which means it'll go T, then H, then I, then S, then space, and yada yada yada. Okay? It will return the current variable it was working on to resume. So I'm going to go print fiber.resume. And when I do that, when I say .resume, it goes back into here and continues on to the next block of code it was working on before. So in this case, it was working on T when it returned the C variable, and then I tell it to resume. So what to do? It goes back here, goes into the next section, which is the for loop here. So 4C in text, it knows where it has to go next, which is H, then it'll return H, and then it'll do it again, return I, and blah 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 blah. Okay? So, print fiber.resume, which will get me the C variable it was working on before I stopped it. Okay? One more thing, at fiber is equal to nil. Okay? So once it finishes its block of code, it will be nil. Alright. Now, if I did all that right, this should work. I'm going to go f is equal to fiber thing dot new. And I'm going to go f dot begin fiber. Cool. And go. Nope. Undefined methods dot each. Okay. Apparently you can't do that for text. Okay. I'm gonna go 0 dot size, and then I'm gonna go at text C, and that should work. There we go. There it is, right there. Cool. Alright, so that is pretty much what fiber does. It yields until you tell it to basically you tell it to continue. Alright, so I'm going to try it again, one more time. Okay, that is displaying really quickly. I should make it wait for a bit. Here's what I'm doing. I'm going to go graphics.wait here, which should graphics.wait 1, which should stop it for a second. There it goes. Okay. Do it again. There we go. And that is pretty much how your windows work when they display text. So window message uses fiber as well, for that very same purpose I just showed. Now, I also want to explain this very clearly once more, because I feel like I'm causing more confusion than I am resolving. Okay, a fiber creates a new thread, a new conveyor belt. Well, no, it doesn't create a new conveyor belt. It fills up a conveyor belt. Your operating system tells one of the workers, one of the cores that's available, to start working on that conveyor belt that was just filled. So it starts doing it, and it gets up to this code here, which says fiber.yield, stop working on whatever it is you're working on. Okay, and return the value back. Alright? So, yeah, pretty much. Return the value back. And then when I say fiber.resume, I'm telling it to continue. But at that same time, when I say fiber.resume, it also returns the variable it was working on at the time when I last stopped it. Okay. Alright, what else? Okay, another thing that can be done is you can use this to actually pause the game until a button is pressed. Alright, and this is used a lot for stuff like your window message. Again, I should probably go search that up to show you what it does. Alright, fiber.new. Alright, so in your window message, even in your game interpreter actually creates fiber. I have no idea what that's used for. Fiber main. Okay, so in your window message, which is your main game message hub. So when I say show text, this is the window that gets called. Okay, so in its update, it updates all windows it has, which is I think gold and name import and other stuff like that. Update your backsprite. I have no idea what backsprite is in this. And then update fiber. So what does fiber do? If fiber is defined, as I've done before, fiber.resume, so continue where you left off. Okay? And it might return a variable, it might not. I have no idea. I don't think it does because it's not trying to get anything from it. Okay? And game message, all this stuff here. So if the game message has something to show you, like text, or maybe you have a command window, fiber gets newed again. So fiber.new fiber main, and what happens is fiber main is it's a method somewhere. So fiber main, there it is. Here's what happens. It goes into here, does all this stuff here. So it updates background placement. Then the fiber itself does a loop, and it does the following: processes all the text, processes input. Okay, and in input, I'm pretty sure that requires its own fiber. In input pause, I believe. Yep, which does fiber.yield until input.trigger B or C is called. Now this still works because you are still inside that block of code. Okay, the fiber .new was created with fiber main, and because it's inside that, it continues. Alright, so we have fiber main here, fiber main, which does all this stuff here, and all these methods are still inside of the fiber thread. They are still run by that secondary thread. Okay, so process input is also a part of that thread, which means it can call fiber.yield. Okay, which means it will pause on that section right here. Input pause. I paused you again, damn it. Yeah, so input pause. Yeah, fiber.yield until you've pressed, you know, C or B, pretty much. Okay, and so until you've done that, it will keep pausing the fiber. And once you pressed it, it will then continue on to input update, self.pause, and updating everything that happens after that. It's pretty easy once you wrap your head around it, but until you do, it's quite difficult. Now, another thing to note, if you're not inside a block for fiber, it will actually break. Okay? So I'm going to go here, and I'm going to go fiber.yield, and look what it says to me. Can't yield from root fiber. Okay? What that means is basically you are not inside of, you know, the next block, the block of code that is running from fiber itself. Okay? Fiber.new makes this block of code here run inside of a fiber root. Inside of a fiber block, I mean. Okay? So this here, resume get text, this runs inside of a fiber. This code here, resume fiber and begin fiber, they do not. Only this does. Okay? And if I was to put a new method in here, let's say I was going to go def A for whatever purpose. If I was to go in here and I was to call in A, I can go fiber.yield because A is still inside of the fiber block. Okay? getText is inside of the fiber block when it gets called, which means when A gets called inside of that method, A is also in fiber block. Okay, so I'm going to go in here. I'm going to go message box underscore P to prove that it got called. Yep, A. And then we'll go fiber.yield, and I'm going to return, matter of fact, I should probably just do that. I can do both. Return KJ, you know, this stuff. Okay, and it should print that. Cool. Run it. Oh yeah, I didn't. Yeah. There we go. Now it should run. Okay, A, it hasn't printed out the next block yet. Boom. That. So there you go. Works like a charm. I just realized I turned that off, didn't I? Yes, I did. Cool. Alright. And that is pretty much fiber. I understand if I didn't explain it perfectly, but once again, it's purely just running on another thread from where it starts. Okay, so that is the same thing that window message does. It checks for its own fiber. I want to see what a game interpreter does actually. Fiber.new run. What does def run do? And it just does its wafer message and fiber.yield and fiber this. See, so it does the same thing I was doing in the class. At fiber is equal to nil once it's done. Okay? So you need to make both threads run with each other. In my case, what I've done here is I've done it here while fiber is not equal to nil. Resume fiber, and once that block is done, it makes fiber equal to nil, which means this will no longer be true, which means it gets skipped and done. Okay, for the actual game itself in window message, they use the update method to help them. Okay, where is the updates? Def update. Oh man, it's a lot of code. Okay, so in that update method, they do update fiber, which is here, and it says pretty much if fiber is not equal to nil, like I've done before, resume fiber. Pretty straightforward. Otherwise, if fiber is not equal to something, and you have something to show us, create a new fiber. Okay? Okay. Otherwise, if you don't have anything to show us, and fiber isn't currently active, meaning you don't have anything to show us at all, game message is equal to false. Simple as that. Okay, so that was fiber. I hope I explained it well. I probably didn't, but hopefully it's clearer now on how you can use it. But basically the only time you probably ever have to worry about fiber is if you want to stop execution of a code, of some code, until input's been hit or whatever. Okay? That is basically what fiber does. It can be used to stop execution of code until something happens, or to return you code based on stuff. So I can change this to 2, which makes it take longer for it to show me text in print. Yep, it's going slower now. I mean, yeah, pretty much that. So I guess until next time, stay safe.